Hello, all. Jace here. In this clip of the Jubilee Surrounded 25 on 1, Ben Shapiro argues that Kamala Harris's stance on abortion is morally indefensible. Now, I will say this is the best summary of all your standard pro death arguments I've ever heard in one sitting, culminating in a woman pretending to be a man, demonstrating everything flawed in debate, logic, reasoning, and compassion. So make sure you stick around till the end. It gets wild and amazingly stupid. Let's get started.
The claim that I'm making about Kamala Harris, let's first say like what I believe her position to be. Okay, so she has not stated any abortion law that she would not veto. Right, so the Partial Birth Abortion Ban Act, for example, or late-term abortion bans, she would presumably veto that as President of the United States. That's the position that I'm taking in this particular prompt. Okay, so that is the position that I find morally indefensible. Okay, so again, I'm a very, very pro-life person, but I can see at least the sort of nuanced arguments that some people on the left try to make about abortion, even if I disagree with those arguments. The argument that she's making, which is effectively abortion until birth should be in no way regulated, I find that to be morally indefensible.
My understanding right now is that a majority of Democrats would not support abortion through birth. My understanding is the more popular position, I don't think any state lets you go through birth. Maybe I'm off on that. Maybe there's a couple.
California and New York, actually.
Okay, understood. But yeah, I think the key claim is basically, I think most Democrats would want abortion within the first few weeks prior to the development of my personal moral starting point of life is that the mind is the seat of consciousness. The brain is is where your self is. If you replace your heart, you have a robo heart, you're chilling. If you replace your brain, you're a different person, you're dead. And I think that when that brain first starts to develop, that's sort of where I see the beginning of life and where the fetus gets their first moral consideration. Would you agree that abortion before that point is tolerable?
No, I don't agree with that. But again, quick question, just as far as defining the positions.
Yeah.
So would you agree that late-term abortion is indefensible?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, that's not my position. I would not support that.
So you actually agree with me on the prompt. Okay, so now we get into the broader abortion conversation. That's fine. I mean,
no worries.
That's totally cool. So yes, no.
Do you feel that a majority of Democrats support through like the moment before birth?
A majority of Democrats have not supported any abortion legislation on the federal level in my entire lifetime, nor do I suppose that they will. So if there were to be a consensus 15-week abortion ban, for example, which is about the status in Europe, I would assume that virtually all Democrats would vote against that 15-week abortion ban. So I may agree with your more moderate position, or at least use that as a starting point. That is certainly not where the Democratic Party historically has been, nor is it where the Democratic Party is right now.
Awesome, understood. And just to understand where you begin your moral consideration for a fetus?
Where I consider it?
Yeah.
At conception.
So this person got voted out shortly after, so we cut it there. They raised the first pro-death argument, trying to define some point of development in which the baby is now a baby. I will say this is the first time I've ever heard the brain development argument, but they're all the same. Considering that once the egg is fertilized and unique DNA has been written, all of their developmental milestones will normally be reached. The only intellectually consistent arguments are either it's a baby at conception or you're fine to kill it until birth.
Nice to meet you. Oh, wow, you look better in person. Okay, so.
That's very sweet of you. I don't often get that, so thank you.
Okay, it's fine. How do you define abortion really quickly?
Abortion would be the forcible termination of an unborn human life.
Yes, but why do you hold that definition? Would you not assume something like a C-section would be considered an abortion?
No, because the baby is born alive. So how would that be an abortion?
What does the definition of abortion have to include the death of a fetus?
Because that's literally the definition of abortion.
It literally isn't, though. Where are you getting this definition from?
Where are you getting your definition from?
Let's go to do you in Mayo Clinic, any fucking hospital you've ever gone to before?
A C-section ends with the birth of the child.
Right, but
I know. But
abortion,
both I and all three of my siblings were born via C-section.
Yeah, I understand this.
I'm here. I'm talking to you.
I know, baby.
Thus I was not aborted.
I understand this, but no. Well, yes, but no. But no, you could simply say that abortion is simply the ending of a pregnancy, right? So the ending of a pregnancy outside of the natural birth of a fetus. So I don't see why you would say that it would have to end in the death of a fetus, which is why I'm pro-abortion all 9 months, right? Because say if a woman is not able to pass a fetus in the natural way, we could have these other abortion processes that would say she needs some type of induction that doesn't include the actual natural expulsion of a fetus. But it doesn't always end in the death of a fetus. So I don't see how you could say that Kamala Harris' stance science is immoral in this sense.
I just don't understand how you're removing the death of the fetus from the equation about abortion. That's literally the entire moral issue. You and I would not even be arguing if we were talking about C-sections or about natural birth.
But it seems like at its core, though, we disagree on what the inherent definition of abortion is.
You could leave away. We could very easily solve this. Let's just not talk about the word abortion. Let's talk about the forcible termination of a baby.
Okay. So then, what do you value in the fetus then?
The life of the fetus.
Okay. So then, when is this? You said it begins at conception.
Yes.
And why is that?
Because that is literally the biological definition of when an independent life begins.
Yes, but like, why does it have moral value?
It has moral value because that's literally the biological definition of when a human life begins.
Right, but like, why does that have moral value, though?
Okay, why does any life have moral value?
I would value sentience.
But why?
Right, because
based on what?
This is simply what we value, like you and I value. Like, is it okay to like unplug like a brain dead patient, for example?
I mean, the question is whether it's okay to unplug a brain dead patient. Actually, quite a controversial one in sort of religious circles. But as far as why, I'm just wondering if somebody's in a coma and you know they're going to wake up, do you have the right to unplug them?
Well, coma's not brain death, though. We know that there's future sentience there. Like, it would be like a matter of like a conjunct of like past, future. Like, past, present, or future sentience. But like a person in a coma has. I
agree, and guess what? Fetuses also have guaranteed future sentience.
Now, this is a new move by the left and a new argument for me. Perhaps this will be the new liberal grift on the abortion debate, like they've done on virtually every other subject. Let's just move the goalposts and redefine the term abortion so that way the term doesn't mean death anymore and everyone will get on board. Honestly, it's not a bad tact. It has certainly worked in the past on a variety of different subjects. Sex and gender are a perfect example. I do love that Jubilee throws in the fact check supporting her definition change. I think their wokeness is showing. This is the first but not a last attempt by these other people to remove the moral reprehension from the argument. And Ben does not let them get away with it. We cannot let them keep killing unborn babies and not feel guilty about it. Now, this woman has no concept of moral value beyond her own life and her own convenience.
Yeah, so on the topic of abortion, I think we have a big focus on the moral aspects of abortion, but I do think we should talk about the legal aspects of life, because when a baby is born, two things happen: birth certificate, social security card. When there are a fetus, when it's like cells in the body, you don't get the birth certificate, you don't get a social security card because it's not alive, it's not born yet. Therefore, when it comes to like the moral repercussions of having abortion, I feel like that's very different than legally, because if a cluster of cells in a woman was equivalent to a baby, I should be able to have tax deductions on that kid. I should be able to have child care from the government. I should be able to have child support from the father. But since like the clusters of cells is in fact not a baby, I feel like morally, you can say whatever, but legally, a clusters of cells is not
so sort
alive.
Of hiding behind the legal positivist position, I think, to shield against the morality here is a problem, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
So when it comes to, first of all, don't threaten me with a good time. I'm perfectly happy to have people pay paternity for children that are currently in utero. Like that's fine with me. In fact, I think that'd be quite good. I think it would incentivize fathers to stay with the mothers and actually be more responsible. But if we're talking about legal status, there are plenty of people in the United States, for example, who don't have legal status right now, who don't have a social security card, for example, in the United States. Obviously, we can't kill them. They're legal immigrants. We shouldn't murder them. There are lots of people in the legal status does not, in fact, equate to moral status in any sense of the term. That it's true, for example, that children can't vote and don't actually have control over any of their decision making. Right? I have 4 kids of my own, and I control their decision making because they're very small. Okay, that doesn't mean that I get to kill them. So the idea of legal status, thus being the basis of a moral status, is putting the cart before the horse. The truth is that it's because things have a moral status that we give them a legal status, and obviously you can see that state by state, right? For example, even in the state of California, they had something called Lacey's Law for a while. I think it's still applicable, where if somebody killed a pregnant woman, that could be treated as a double homicide in criminal law. Okay, that sort of stuff applies all over the United States. So using the legal as a substitute to sort of evade the moral question ignores the fact that people make law in the states based on what their moral perception of the issue is. The law follows the moral perception, not the other way around.
Yes, I agree, but I think there is a problem with the moral perception, especially when you consider that morality varies all across America. It's not uniform.
The real question when it comes to abortion was, and always will be how we weigh 2 separate considerations. One is the moral value of the life of the fetus, and the second is the woman's right to choose. The problem is that these are sort of mutually exclusive, meaning that I don't have a right to choose about your life, right? About whether I get to kill you or not, or about the children that I have who are already born. And so the right to choose is obviated by the acknowledgement of a moral status on the part of the child. and vice versa. Right? If you're willing to say that the child has no moral status whatever, then there really is no problem with abortion. The big moral problem I have with the sort of Kamala Harris position and the position that I have.
Now we're going to move the abortion debate to a legal argument so we can remove the moral implications. It's okay for Harris to legalize late-term abortion because we've decided that legally they don't have a government identity. She accidentally made a great point. Let's figure out a legislative way to make the fathers more accountable when the mother is pregnant. I'm all for that. She also accidentally made the argument for exactly why, if you're going to have any version of legalized abortion, which we shouldn't, the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade and give control back to the states makes perfect sense. Morality does vary greatly from state to state. That's exactly why there can't be a national law. Now, as for this woman, have the guts to stand up and say you're fine with abortion. Don't try to obfuscate the argument behind a legal backdrop. You're just a coward.
Appreciate you being here and having an open discussion.
Yeah, you bet, it's fun.
Let's say that just hypothetically, right? Baby's born. Baby, mama can't feed the baby. She's not breastfeeding. Baby dies. Morally, do you feel like that would be better than if the baby would have just been like aborted before it was born?
I mean, I'm not sure that there's any. I mean, I think that it's significantly worse to purposefully kill a child rather than accidentally or through circumstances kill a child.
Not accidentally, right? She cannot.
She didn't purposefully kill the child.
She can't afford it, right?
I mean,
she can't afford to have the baby, and so you're saying that Kamala Harris is extreme, but your stance is that women are being forced to have children, even if they decide that for whatever reason. I don't care. I don't care.
Why
but
don't
for whatever
care? Why
reason,
don't you care? Because you give me a very specific example.
Because it's not between me. Because it's not. It is not between me.
Right, but
it is between that mom, her health, her relationship with whoever she believes in. It is not on me.
So here's sort of the problem. You're extrapolating from a very emotionally laden example to everything, and I'm wondering how you're doing that. So you give me a case in which you have a woman who, for whatever reason, literally cannot feed her child. For some reason, adoption's not available. There are no food stamps. There's literally nothing. She's in a desert by herself, and the baby's going to die. Is that abortion equivalent to a woman who decides to, because she doesn't want the baby for economic reasons or because it's going to crimp her lifestyle, like whatever? You said you don't care about the reason at all. That's your words, not mine. So she's 15 weeks pregnant. She wants to kill it. That's the same? Why?
You're asking me why it's the same. I'm asking you why isn't it the same? Why is a baby who
I think it's pretty self-evidently the same,
who
not the same.
can't be born say that if she doesn't want to, if she says that I can't economically afford this child, that's like somebody going and saying, I can't economically afford this car, and the car salesperson still taking them on a test drive. Like, what's the point if they've already told you that they are not going to be able to economically afford it unless you give them, like you said, okay, what about abortion? Well, there's how many people in foster care that aren't being adopted right now today? All right,
should we kill them or what?
I'm not saying we should kill them. I'm just saying that should we wait at least until
would have been better
all
if they were
those
dead?
people. You tell me.
No, you tell me. You're the one who's suggesting
those people,
that's a matter of moral apathy, whether those kids were born or not. I don't think so.
So if kids are in foster care and not being treated well, they're being abused. They're not being fed.
That is a
they're
horrific problem, yes.
They're being locked. The fridge is being locked, and they're told they can't go get it because there are people who are only in it because they're getting a check. You're saying that is morally
superior to killing them? Yes.
Before they're born. So
yes.
You're saying that torturing a human being who's born, like they're a real life human today.
No, I'm not the one in favor of torture. You're the one in favor of unborn people being killed.
If the only way you survive is food and water, and you rely on someone else to provide that to you, and they're not providing it to you, what would you call that?
I'm confused by.
I know you are, because your argument contradicts itself.
No, it really, really doesn't. I mean, the argument that you're making is that a born child deprived of food and water never should have been born.
This is another common leftist trope. It would be better if the baby never lived than to live in less than ideal circumstances. This one probably pisses me off the most. Who are any of you to say that a life is not worth living because they have struggles? Why would it be better to murder an unborn child than for that child to go hungry for a day? This is a perfect example of how far our secular society has devolved. We place so little importance on this incredible gift God has given us. He put that human on this earth for a very specific purpose. And frankly, I don't care if you agree with it. I don't get to have an opinion on God's plan either. So shut up. This disgusting man places no value on life. Now we're going to move on to the finale. Buckle up.
Well, okay, we're going to take this chair. Look at that.
Hey, Ben.
Like a bro, my friend. All right.
How's it going?
Let's break open
first
a beer or
question,
something.
can men get pregnant?
Men cannot get pregnant.
Okay, awesome. So,
Definitionally.
definitionally, okay. Do men experience SA? Sexual assault?
Sure.
Got it. What about the existence of trans men?
What about the existence? Do you mean women who believe that they are men? What are we talking about here? Women experiencing gender dysphoria?
So my other question is, do you benefit from white supremacy in any way, shape, or form?
I'm going to need more specifics on what you mean by white
Well, here,
supremacy.
let me give it to you, Ben.
Sure, please.
So I'm a transgender man.
Okay.
I've experienced SA.
Okay.
And abortion rights affect me directly. So if we're talking about the American dream that you live, why don't I have access to that? Because there's no legislation, in the history of America, that legislates a man's body, so why does mine have to be legislated? I've got a vagina.
I'm not interested in what your genitalia are.
Clearly you are. I mean, it's all over everything you make, buddy. I'm sorry. I hate to say it to you, but
I think you can read on my
kind of an
face that I
obsession
radically
you
am
guys
not.
have.
I think you can read on my face that I radically am not. When we're talking about abortion,
No, I don't. I mean, you can present it here, but in most of the content that you have, you attack my community constantly. And you don't even realize guys like me exist who actually share a lot of similarities to you and everything, because I'm a married man of 20 years.
I've
got a wife.
I recognize that you exist. I disagree with your
Right,
claim
so
that you
if
are a
I
male.
was sexually assaulted, right, and I didn't have access to that abortion care, do you believe that I should have carried that child to term because
What does
I
this
was
have to-
sexually assaulted?
I mean,
No, I just want to make sure that that's what you believe. Because as a transgender man, I have seen your side of the entire political debate, never ever having the conversation of what an American freedom is. Because why am I not allowed to live my American freedom as a man? You know, I mean, you get your choice as a man to live and free and all that.
You're really moving around terminology very wildly here.
And so are you, because that's the tactics you play in your game. And you've done it the entire time. You've jumped from one subject to the next. You speak so fast, and I know how you work. So how does it feel to have it in your face?
Well, I mean...
Because I'm sick and tired of the shit that you have put against my community, especially black trans women. Because you constantly disregard all of our needs and then use us politically as a pawn when we're 1% of the population. Why not focus on the economy itself? All of us are struggling, and you want to focus on trans people. You want to focus on a black woman when this is clearly a glass cliff situation. America's falling apart, and let's give it a woman right when it's all falling apart, when we had, 50 men run it and it looks like shit? Look at where we're at. Truly, where do you think that we're heading? I mean, it's so funny to watch white supremacy just fall apart the way that it is, and you ride so hard. Because guess what? In other countries around the world, women are not having children. And why is it? Because of the patriarchy and all the violence that men perpetuate, and all of this idea that abortion is somehow gonna solve it all by forcing women to have abortion instead of focusing on the real problems that we're facing in our society. We're just gonna completely ignore that, and we're just gonna go, you know what? The line item is, let's make women have babies so that we can continue this capitalistic society that we have. Why are we doing that? What? I mean, why? Because you want to push white supremacy and because you want to make your check? It does great for you? Meanwhile, people like me have to live with the consequences of all of your rhetoric that you put on a daily basis. And including my entire community. And the intersectionalities of black women, men that experience SA, trans people, everyone that comes in. And I'm so sick of the idea that you can come in with this bravado, that you're this big guy that knows things because you can talk fast, you have statistics. But really, what does it really matter at the end of the day if you are harming the entire American? This guy's been accused of rape. Trump, in court documents, and you're backing the guy. You have children. How could you do that to your own? Don't you have a daughter? What is wrong with you, dude? I've never seen such a party just completely like the American idea, what we believe in as a country, is not what you're perpetuating. It's diversity. It's giving you tired, hungry, and poor. The Google phone you have in your pocket is because of all of the diversity we've had.
So my argument on abortion is so friggin' strong that I'm going to make it about trans rights instead and talk nonstop for 7 minutes so you can't get a word in. I love that she thought that she was going to drop this bomb on Ben and he was going to be struck dumb in shock. He didn't care that she was a she and had a beard, nor did he care about her emotionally charged argument. I'm assuming, of course, that would be his argument, since she never even let Ben speak. But I do love that he just sat back and let her humiliate herself. The crux of her argument, at least the portion that had anything to do with abortion, was abortion in the case of sexual assault. And I have never understood how the murder of an innocent child is an appropriate reaction to a horrific assault. I just don't get how one has anything to do with the other. Now, you want to talk about making rape a capital crime? I'm all for it. Thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you for the next one.